Hello again, this is Alvaro from Spain. This time I'd like to shoot this video to explain something that I feel guilty about that I should have told a long time ago, which is how to work with the FS5 and FS7 when you want to work with raw output. I know that most of the people may know that, but some other people may be wondering how that works. So firstly, they don't work the same in both models, despite there are some similarities amongst both models, like the E-mount, the sensor, and the capability to record external RAW. But in each case, it's different. So, for instance, in the FS5, if you have the FS5 Mark I, in that case, you will need a license, which is the CVK-Z FS5 RIF, RAW interface. So sorry for the cryptic name, but that is the license that you need to install. It's very easy inside the camera, and from that moment on, you can output the signal via RAW. If you have the Mark II version, then it is installed by default in your unit, so you don't need to arrange any update or upgrade on it. From that moment, you can select in the recording menu that you are outputting RAW. So that is very useful, not only related to how your workflow is designed, but also it maximizes the quantity of output that you have on the camera. As you may remember, in the FS5 you have some little limitation due to the bandwidth or the capability of the camera, which is when you shoot in 4K, you cannot monitor the signal, or you cannot output the HDMI in 4K and all that stuff. So it's a bit limited, let's say. So if you install the RAW license, or you work with the RAW mode, from that moment on, you will be able to output 4K RAW, for instance, signal, and internally, if you configure the camera to record in XAVC HD, for instance, you can monitor the signal, you can output the signal through HDMI in full HD resolution, so it's much more versatile, let's say. So that is related to the FS5. In the FS7, it's a bit different, because in FS5, as I've told you, it's a matter of software, of license, but in this case, it depends on the hardware that you install. So this is a basic configuration that you may find out there, which includes the XDCA FS7. The XDCA FS7 is a device that you can install in the rear side of the camera, and this device allows you to convert the camera into a much more, how to say, studio camera than the typical shoulder or semi-shoulder camera that the FS7 is. So, for instance, you can externally feed some devices, so that you can build a typical multiple devices or Christmas tree configuration in the camera. You can also have timecode, sync, etc. But the most important thing for me, or at least for this video, is that you have the RAW out connector. So that RAW out connector will output basically the same signal as you have in the FS5 through that license, and then that signal can be outputted. Let's keep it that way so far, because as I have told you, the signal is outputted. And some of you will be wondering, sorry Alvaro, but that signal, that connector, both in the FS7 and in the FS5, is a 3G SDI connector. But I have told that it is 4K RAW. So you may know that for 4K, at least you need 6G SDI. So something is wrong over there. It's not that wrong. Instead of understanding the signal as a video signal, what we do is to convert into data. And then, from that moment, it's a data stream. That data stream, the moment you have something as data, is easier to codify. I would like to say compress, it's codify. And then it is sent through the connector in a codified way, which means that on the other side of the cable, you need a decoder, something that decodifies the signal. That is why if you connect that RAW connector to a device that, even if it is capable of showing RAW, which I don't know if that is feasible nowadays, but you wouldn't see anything. Why? Because it is codified, as I've told you. So what you need to do is, in an external device, to decodify, to decode it. So how can we do that? There are three ways, basically. The first one that I wouldn't say I don't like it, but it's a bit expensive, especially for the FS5, which is the AXS, the recorder is the AXS R5, so the same as the F5 or F55s. But before that recorder, you need an interface that decodes the signal, and that interface is the HXR IFR5 interface. It comes from interface. So that device takes the signal in codified RAW mode and converts it into RAW signal. So the same as you could find in an F5 or an F55. But the price of both devices plus the battery is, as far as I am concerned, a bit expensive, because it can cost the same or even more than the camera itself. So that leads us to talk about the second option, which is the Convergent Designs Odyssey 7Q or 7Q Plus, which is basically a decoder that transcodes into another codec, into a codec, and then it records into some media that I don't remember. I think it's also a solid state disk or something like that. And also you can view the signal. So it is much more useful, I think, because you have also a monitor. And the third option is quite similar, which is from Atomos. And in this case, I have two examples of that, which is the Shogun Inferno and the Sumo. Both devices are doing basically the same as the Odyssey, which is taking the signal in RAW mode, decoding it, transcoding into another codec. For instance, ProRes RAW was the last big news about Atomos. And then it records onto an SSD or an HDD hard disk drive. Yes, HDD, sorry. But also allows us to monitor the signal, which in this case it's quite important, because also these monitors are HDR. And the moment we are outputting RAW in both cases, in FS5 or in FS7, we are outputting RAW with S-log gamma curve. I think that it is S-log 2 and S-log 3 or something like that, but you can take a look on that on the technical documentation. And it's a 12-bit depth, so very, very nice for post-production. And in SGAMUT 3 or SGAMUT 3.cine color space, but I don't remember if you can select that via menu. So in that case, since you receive the signal with an S-log gamma curve applied, you need to linearize it or to monitor it to know if you are exposing correctly. So that is why an HDR monitor is quite useful. And what else? Yes, how to configure that. In the FS5, you go to the Rec menu and you can select either Rec or internal XABC HD plus Rec. Sorry, I was saying Rec. RAW. So you have two options, just RAW output or internal XABC HD plus RAW output, which is probably the most flexible solution. And in FS7, you can basically do the same. You go into firstly, you need to work in Cine EI mode, which is the, how to say, I would say the pure camera with no modification, no customization, which is the other option mode. And in that case, you can output the RAW signal via the XDCA FS7. So basically that is what I wanted to tell you. Let me recap to summarize. FS5 plus license, CBK said FS5 RIF or FS5 Mark II, plus external device. And in FS7's case, you need the XDCA FS7 and also the external device to record. So again, sorry for not being able to arrange this video in the past, because I know I should have done it. But I really hope that it's useful for you, and from now on, every time you need to configure or to design your workflow, it is useful for you, and you know what to do, which devices to acquire, to rent, to work with, and thus making your workflow and your life a bit better. So see you in the next video, I hope, and I really wish that you find some useful information in this one. So thank you very much for taking a look on this one.